to Founderology, Built to Break Through. My name is Kathleen Wood, and I am the founder of the innovative, award-winning growth strategy company, Kathleen Wood Partners, and founder of Founderology, the Growth Summit, an event where we bring together like-minded visionary restaurant founders to share, connect, and grow their businesses to the next level so they are built to break through. Today, I am thrilled to introduce our guest, Ellis Winstanley, a founder of minimally, at this point, 10 unique businesses in hospitality, restaurants, business development, technology, and retail development. Now, I am thrilled to have Ellis here today, and I'm really excited about it because today we're in Austin, Texas at his concept, El Arroyo, home of delicious food, phenomenal service, and a legendary sign. So, Ellis, thank you so much for having us here today, and thank you for being on the Founderology podcast, too.
Thank you for having me. Great to see you.
You know, Ellis, as I said in your intro, I was counting how many businesses that you're founder and co-founder on right now, and I think I was at 10. So I think one of the things that our listeners would want to know first and foremost is kind of what's your origin story that took you from where you started to where you are today, if you could share that with us.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. We started with buying distressed multi-generational restaurant brands in college. So I bought a 24-hour diner that was just highly distressed, losing about $5,000 a month, and had a lot of physical maintenance issues, and then turned it around, got it making money. I didn't really have any capital to speak of, so I had to get it making money quickly, and then kept buying distressed brands from there. So for years did distressed deals in several industries.
And so how did you start to branch off from, you're buying distressed brands, right? But then you start to expand the portfolio to include technology companies and retail development and business development areas. What was your journey to kind of go from starting by buying distressed brands to now where you are today?
So I think it kind of started with the same mindset of looking at something and just going, this doesn't make sense. Why is this happening? You know, you look at looking at a distressed multi-generational brand that's got 40 years of customer attachment and challenging why it should be in that condition is kind of the same thing that led us into, or led me and our group into, in just founding other companies. And really, we'd look at situations we had and we'd say, you know, we really need to solve this problem, and we'd go survey the market and try to find solutions for it, and we just couldn't find a solution that we felt like really solved the problem, and so we would end up starting a company to solve it and be the first customer. And so our model is really to nurture an opportunity by being the first customer of it, but instead of saying, oh, we're going to set it up as a cost center inside of our organization, let's set it up as its own business. We'll put a business leader that we really believe in to run it, and then support them and being the first customer, helping get infrastructure in place, funding, and then once it's up and doing a great job, they'll go out and get other third-party customers. So that's kind of how we ended up founding our software company, Axial Shift, which sells into the restaurant space, came up that way. Texarica is our company that helps companies co-locate to Costa Rica. It's how we founded Echo Trading, which is helping us move our supply chain to Latin America and many others.
So Ellis, when you think about it, I love what you're saying. You find out, there's a problem that you have, and then you develop a solution for it. And then depending on how that solution goes, you figure out what you're going to do next with it. So do you ever have, like, when you're thinking about one of your businesses, do you ever have one of those aha moments where you're like, oh my gosh, this is really going to work. We have to double down and really go with this. What do those moments look like for you?
So a lot of times it's whenever we find our own product market fit internally. I mean, a lot of times it starts with this is a problem. We know it's a problem. We know that nothing we've been out there able to find solves it. And like any other business that starts, there's the initial theory, and then there's the state it ends up in after it's been iterated a whole bunch of times. And so along that journey of iterating it, we're essentially finding product market fit. And granted, one of our businesses is the first customer a lot of the time. But, we let the operators deal independently with each other, and we we facilitate what they're doing. And so the aha moments really come when you're like, okay, you're seeing real value delivery to the end user, and they're starting to say, wow, this is solving my problem. But yeah, it's a chain of those events, hopefully.
Right. So would you say, just talk, I know many of our listeners are very familiar with El Arroyo for sure, but one of your companies that I think is very inspiring and truly game-changing is Axial Shift. So just kind of taking that idea that you had a problem, you looked for a solution, and you went outside of the hospitality space, so to speak, and into the technology space. Can you maybe just share a couple of highlights of how you applied that same mindset to the development and implementation and execution of Axial Shift, which is a game-changing technology for the hospitality industry?
Sure. Yeah. So we had been in the technology space previously with a branded products company, and so we had really done some really heavy software systems for everything from automated pricing to ripping really complex art apart, putting it back together. So we had a software background, and then we had bought a bunch. Ended up with 8 restaurants at this point, 7 different concepts. And I looked up and I was like, gosh, we've got so much technology. We spend so much time training managers to use technology, and they don't feel fully aligned with the regionals, and the frontline hourly employees don't seem to really be super connected with the mission that the store managers, and we could get there through like force, by pushing hard, by extreme effort, managers working too many hours and stuff. And I thought that this has to be easier than this. I mean, getting people aligned around a core mission is challenging in a restaurant when you've got multiple shifts, you've got lots of different personalities, you've got lots of influences. I mean, running a restaurant is like, I had this conversation with a banker friend yesterday, and I said, listen, think about a restaurant like you have the hardest elements of every business you've ever experienced all together in one place. You got a manufacturing environment, perishable inventory, retail sales floor, more employees per revenue dollar of any other industry, low barrier to entry, right? So somewhat fickle customer influences. Right. And I'm like, this is so unnecessarily, on top of all that, we're making it hard, or it's hard for managers to just know what the mission is every day and be totally focused on it. And so we spent a couple years trying to find solutions in the market. And then one day I just said, look, nobody seems focused on the core problem, which is getting the front line of a restaurant organization totally aligned. So we said, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I guess we're going to do it. So
I love it. And thus, Axial Shift is born and truly does become a game changer because of all of the, and I know people will learn more about this as we give them ways to connect with you, but that is a game changer technology that is so applicable, especially in today's workplace where we're trying to get more managers engaged, more team members engaged, and bringing fun back into the workplace too. So we'll definitely talk some more about that as well. When you think about all of the different businesses that you've started, co-founded, that you're the chief strategy officer for, which one would you say to date has been, or which of them to date would you say have been like, wow, this one really broke through and really changed the trajectory of the business for us?
Axial is definitely doing that, and changing the trajectory for a lot of other people. Texarica has been really important for us. We decided back in 2021, we saw an opportunity to integrate influences from multiple places. And so we thought that the kind of internal strife and politics and just craziness that people were getting bombarded with from social media and the news and all this stuff, we just thought, man, people just, if they had an opportunity to really understand people from another place, I bet that would kind of spark some interest and get people to think. And then also, if we can go to another place and find people who are really super talented and would love the opportunity to be integrated into small teams and where they've got more influence and more opportunity. So we end up finding Costa Rica as that solution. And so now our companies are largely, many of our companies are co-located to Costa Rica, and we've decided to stay with work from home or work from remote, and what we do is we spend the money we would spend on office on travel twice a year, and so either our Costa Rican teams come to the U.S. or our U.S. teams go to Costa Rica or people come. So we've kind of been gradually onboarding that as a strategy, but a few days together in person where people are really focused on solving hard problems together and building bonds and thinking about what they want for their role and the organization as a whole for the next few years has gone a really, really long way. And I think Costa Rica has enabled us to do that.
And what kind of work is, in that initiative with Costa Rica, what kind of work is actually kind of being done there? What are you trying to address with that particular venture?
So, I mean, yeah, originally we started with I think the first role we placed down there was software developers. And then we had graphic design, purchasing, digital marketing, some data analysis. We've got a manager down there. So it's interesting. Costa Rica is very similar to Texas in a lot of ways. It's a little bit cowboy culture, a little bit kind of take care of your neighbor kind of attitude. It's a really good fit for, our businesses are based in Texas. And so it's a good fit culture, even though our people are all over the United States.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's been a really neat experience. I think it's accelerated our growth and our opportunities for everybody, including our folks, and especially really our folks in the U.S. So.
Yeah, what a great opportunity. I mean, who would not want to take the opportunity to go live and work in Costa Rica for a little while? I mean, especially given some of the chilly weather that Texas now experiences as well. So that's a great opportunity. Ellis, one of the things, when working with founders, what I have found over the last several years is that founders have this amazing ability to make what many would consider unconventional or bold decisions that really help to accelerate their business. When you look at all of the businesses that you're involved with, what would you kind of pinpoint as some of your more bold or unconventional decisions that you made that just shifted, where you were going?
Yeah, so it really shows through in we're totally willing to start a company to solve a problem. Just in general, we're willing to, we look at it like a great opportunity. If it's a problem that is a real problem for us, it's got to be a real problem for other people too. So I think that's a pretty unconventional approach. Most people would think like we need to either just buy the best thing we can, or we need to, set up hire somebody and set up another, part of the organization as kind of an expense structure. We really like small teams that are highly interconnected, but not kind of vertically dependent. Like they're servicing each other in ways that really is works more like microservices for a computer architecture would work. So I think there's
No, go ahead.
I just think there's this really interesting paradigm you see now, like with if you look at computers, right? I mean, so like 40 years ago, the strategy for computers was you get like an AS400 server that's like the size of a Volkswagen or whatever, and you run that thing, and that thing is like the power center of the organization. All the terminals are connecting into it. It's all the logic is there, all the decision making is there. Amazon with AWS really reinvented the computing world in a big way, with basically taking warehouses full of average computers, just normal computers, and stitching them all together and letting all those computers work together. And it got phenomenally better results than relying on this superstar computer. And humans are no different. And so I think that there's a really big fundamental shift happening right now, where organizations have an opportunity to look at the people throughout the organization and say, wow, I've got 100 brains here. If I leverage all 100 of them, I'm going to get a far better result than trying to depend on the genius of the one or two at the top, or whatever, the implied genius of the one or two at the top is probably a better way to put it. And so I think that's a different way of looking at it too, that's been really impactful for us as a team.
Right. Well, I'm just going to lean in on that a little bit more, because I have to believe that our listeners, as they're hearing this discussion right now, they're like, well, wait, he's got the restaurants, he's got the tech company, he's got Texaria. How is he managing all of this? Because when you think about sometimes founder-led businesses, and what most business gurus would say is they're like, focus on one thing and make it the main thing. But you're suggesting, hey, this is a way to leverage your entire kind of human ecosystem to do more and to do better with it. So how do you manage all of the different business entities that you're involved with?
So we put operating partners in place in a lot of the businesses. We run a best idea wins policy, and so it doesn't matter who came up with it. The best idea wins, and I think that gets the best out of people, is giving them an opportunity to contribute intellectually to the outcome. And you look at like the amount of information flowing now. People want to be in that position. They've got. I mean, it's. Anybody who grew up with fast internet has the same opportunities anybody else has, right, to contribute. Yeah. And so I think that Charlie Munger was Warren Buffett's like lesser known business partner, right? And so I think Charlie Munger's famous for saying something along the lines of, show me the incentive and I'll show you the result, right? And so I think incentives matter, and I think letting people participate in the outcomes matter. So we love the operating partner model. We've tested it in various different formats. We found certain successes with some, and there's also, I think there's interim steps to that where, bonus plans are something we've spent a lot of time thinking about working on. And what's interesting about bonus plans is there's almost always a perverse incentive somewhere, right? So the question to ask yourself is like, if I believe in this person enough to let them run my business, then am I okay with them making a decision that maybe makes the cost of goods sold a little higher today, but it's going to earn double the return customer visit tomorrow? And if they really truly believe that that's the case, and they can make a compelling argument for it, should their bonus plan give them half bonus today for making a good business decision for tomorrow? And so I think that there's a lot to be said for letting people participate in the bottom line outcome of what they create, and then really taking a support-oriented perspective. So I think the big fundamental shift for us kind of post-COVID was, if we really want to grow, we need all the brains fully focused, fully running, and we need to turn into a support organization that's in between all of these businesses. And so that's how we run it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, for people listening, I love your idea of the best idea wins. That way we're always driving to an achieving mentality as opposed to a let's get it done mentality. I love that. I love the idea of looking at the bonus program for how does not just the short-term win of it, but the long-term win of it as well. Because I think that, I agree with you. I think that's where bonuses sometimes can, well-intended still may not get you the ultimate result you're looking for. So those kind of shifts, I think, are so powerful, especially in today's world too, which, from that perspective, the idea of getting more and more people, and you have people all over, to your point, all over the outside of the United States and all over the United States. So getting them all interconnected, what a powerful way to do that by getting them to be, at a far higher level of engagement in the process. I mean, super powerful. Lots of great lessons for people to learn from that. I'm curious though, as you're scaling and you're trying to, you have everyone engaged, what have you focused on? I mean, have you kind of hit any challenges that you're like, when we were trying to scale this, we hit this roadblock and this is how we overcame it? Or, how do you address some of those challenges when you're trying to scale up a business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what scaling is just overcoming one roadblock after the next and trying to whatever's. I find myself running through the wall a lot. I think we've used some. It's interesting because there's some really powerful tools available now that are not very expensive, and so we've started to use Monday.com as a tool for us that all of our teams have kind of gradually adopted it, and the internal experience and the external experience where they're using it has been really accelerated. Right, and the amount of work we have to do, we've been able to automate through a lot of things. I think that there's a decision point about scaling that everybody goes through. It's like, you go through so much pain as a founder starting, and then you get to like, okay, I've got product market fit. This is starting to work. I'm not sleeping on the floor anymore, and I'm not, in there. Every you're not having to constantly make the decision of like, if I just do this myself, it won't cost me $200 to do or whatever. You get past that, and then you hit the point where you're like, okay, I've got to scale, and you're kind of going back into that mindset again, where you're like, well, I'm going to have to get really lean and really invest every dollar in getting structure in place, and I'm going to have to give up a little bit of the ability to make all the decisions myself, and I'm going to have to hope, trust but verify. That what's happening is what should be happening. And then inevitably you learn, I should say inevitably we learned that you don't have the people that you really thought were there and were going to be the people who are going to help you scale, or not the people who are going to help you scale.
Right.
And sometimes those people are really good at making you feel smart, right? Wow, that's such a great decision. You're like, but they're not going to. But as soon as you take your foot off the gas, they aren't going to take the ball anywhere and run with it.
Yeah.
And so there's a decision point where you really have to set ego aside and say, if I want this to become something, this is going to have to be about creating an organization that's highly functional and have people around me that are going to execute, because that fulfills them, right? Whether it's a financial incentive or an intrinsic incentive, or hopefully both.
Right.
And so I think, yeah.
No, I like it. That's where when I work with founders, that's one of the discussions we're having. We're done working in the business. Now we have to build a company that can open up businesses, as opposed to we're working in the business and we're just going to keep adding more locations thinking that's a company, right? So when you make that shift to build the company, now we have to bring in the expertise of people that know how to build the company with you. And that's always, to me, to your point, it's a stretch point for the founder. It's definitely a shift for the founder. And, now it's like, oh my gosh, I had all this and now I have to invest again. But that, to me, is what separates those from who open a few to those who really scale them, scale and truly fulfill the vision that they started out with. So when you think about founders, Ellis, what do you think is one of the overlooked traits that founders probably need to focus in on to be successful?
For themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, I think early on, there's just so many people who are telling you why it's going to be hard, or you shouldn't do it, and some of it's out of fear, and some of it's out of jealousy, and some of it's out of just total lack of ability to comprehend the motivations that a founder has.
Right.
So I think tenacity and intentionality around what you're doing is always something founders, unless it's one of those things where you throw something out there and all of a sudden the ground's on fire and you can't keep up, which is needle in a haystack type situation. Most companies, as you know, don't have that situation.
No, yeah,
So
true.
grindstone and try to move the ball forward, have 2 yards every play, and then hope you find 6 yards in there on something, and do it again.
Exactly. Great analogy. You've mentioned it a couple of times, your mindset for, hey, there's a problem, we're going to find a solution. How would you kind of describe that mindset that a founder needs to continue, to your point, I'm moving 2 yards, now I have to get 6. What kind of mindset, kind of advice would you give a founder as they're trying to build a company to break it through too?
I think focus on the problem and listen to the customers and focus on solution. I think in every startup, there's always the list of stuff you wish you could have done different. And then there's the couple of things you're like, okay, I did that right. And that really helped me. I think with Axial, we really did that. We really focused we didn't get wrapped around the axle on, whiz bang product stuff. We sat down and paid attention to what the customers were doing, looked at their pain points, and focused on solving their pain points. And that made all the difference in the world for us in building a product that really works versus a Me Too product that needed 100 people in a bullpen calling people as fast as they could to just get a few sales wrung out of it.
Right. I love that idea of really listening to what I just heard that recently, that you can hear what people are saying, but sometimes you're not listening to what their real problem is. So you jump the gun too quick thinking you know the problem, but you haven't, to your point, trust and verified that that's actually the problem that you're trying to solve. So so important. When you look at the scope of everything that you've accomplished, and I know you're going to accomplish a lot more too, but when you think about it, what do you think to date has been one of the most game-changing things for you personally as a founder in all the experiences that you've had thus far in your journey?
So I think COVID was probably it for us in going through that. I mean, so we during COVID, the first days of COVID, we got a little bit of an early signal that it was going to happen because of a real estate project we were in, and just long story. But I ended up having a few days early kind of signal on it, and then we had to be. So at least we had a few days to think about it, and our decision point was that we weren't going to lay anybody off, and then we were going to find a way to get through it. And that was like a real gut check of a decision. But the idea really changed our thinking, and it changed the way we approach the company. And being totally honest, we went too far with it at one point. The pendulum swing too far in that direction. We had to find, the rational spot. But we basically said, if we're going to really be an organization and not be an owner-driven small business, then we're going to have to act like it's really an organization. And if our people are our most important asset, we're going to have to do that. So we set to work on figuring out how, and we ended up coming up with a way to legalize alcohol delivery in Texas. And so we did it. We got some help from a government official who then we're quite certain they were getting fired over that, and we did it. And then ultimately, fortunately, the governor's office thought it was a good idea, and then legalized it. Or went kind of public with, hey, this is how they did this, and this is actually okay with us, and all you guys should do it too. And ultimately, it led not only to us actually having an increase in revenue, but being able to help a lot of other people also. And so it was a pretty foundational moment for us. It really went a long way for what the company is now.
And Ellis, I just want to give you kudos on that, because I think it does a few things. It shows the power of, being a founder, being adaptable, being flexible, staying true to your purpose and your principles and your values. But the other point about it is you didn't just do it for yourself. You did it, that changed literally the legislation in the entire state of Texas during COVID. And to me, it speaks sometimes, when our businesses are smaller, we think, well, I can only do so much because I'm only this big. And what I love about this is you're like, hey, we're this big, we want to do the right thing, but we can have this kind of an impact that literally probably not only helped your businesses, but helped so many businesses stay in the game during such a uncertain time in the whole industry. So thank you so much for that, because I think that it's, we forget sometimes because we get so busy, but wow, the power we have at times is just more than sometimes we think until we have one of these moments. And look what you did. You changed an entire state, which is not an easily done thing. So thank you for your efforts on that and for helping so many during that time.
I think the real learning lesson for me in that was like, why not? Like, this makes sense, why not? And
right.
So, or nobody would have said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, you should go do that. But the question really was like, why not? Why shouldn't we do it?
Right. I think about all the people that are like, I don't even know how, right? So to put yourself out there with the why, look, if I'm listening, I'm taking a note on that too. But why not is such a great question, instead of what's going to happen or I'm going to wait. I mean, yeah, why not? Fantastic.
I've got a friend who she gives me a hard time. She's like, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
That's
it's
your
so great.
Why not? But I think that's a founder trait.
I definitely think so too. And Ellis, I know we could keep talking, and believe it or not, our time is coming to a close. So I'm going to ask our Fast Five questions really quickly. So of course, so are you ready for these Fast Five, Ellis?
Sure.
Okay. Number one is, what is your favorite menu item at El Arroyo that every guest should try?
Cancun avocado.
Ooh, Cancun avocado. Ooh, that sounds delicious. Okay, very good on that one. What would be one word that would describe your founder journey today?
Exhilarating.
And what would be one piece of advice that you would give a founder who's out there listening, who's literally grinding it out, but they believe that they've got something that's going to break through? What advice would you give to them?
One word?
No, advice.
Oh, okay. I would say, stay tenacious and listen and pay attention to what's going on around you and be flexible. Don't be afraid to change your mind when you learn new information, but stay the course on the underlying mission.
Oh, that's a great one. What is one book you would recommend to a founder that they should listen to or read?
Range.
I know. Okay, I was hoping you were going to say that. That was a book you recommended to me, and that book is. But you want to just do a minute on why that book is so powerful?
Yeah, and if you'll let me, there's really two books, but Range is the if I had to pick one, I'd pick Range. So Range.
I'm with you.
Range is it's a book about how having multiple, being a general. I think the title is something like how generalists thrive in a specialist's world, right? And so it's about having drawing on lots of different experiences to find the best solution to a given problem. Where lots of times, if you're hyper specialized in one area, you miss the influences that could totally change your perspective about a particular problem.
All right, so that's Range. What's your second choice?
Taipan by James Clavell. It's an old book. It was written in 1966. It's TAI-PAN. It's about a family business. It's a historical fiction. It's based on a family business called the Jardines from the founding of Hong Kong. They were Scottish pirates working the Opium Triangle, and how they built the business. And you got a lot of inner workings of like actually how the family business was set up, and it's a real business that's there today in Hong Kong. So.
Wow. Okay, Taipan. All right, thanks for that one. And then finally, if people wanted to find out more about you, your various business ventures, El Arroyo, Texarica, Axial Shift, where would they go to find that information out, Ellis?
So I'd love to connect with anybody. My LinkedIn has got my links to all of our various businesses and stuff. The websites. The website for Axial Shift or axialshift.com or elarroyo.com or texarica.com. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, it's Ellis Winstanley, and there's only two of us. There's me and some young man from England.
Yes, I saw that. It's good though. We're all unique in our own way, Ellis. But I really want to just say thank you so much for taking time today. I know you're so busy. I know you've got a lot going on. I wanted to just kind of cheers you up on this one and, say thanks with our beautiful cups here. And if you haven't been to the elarroyo.com website, wow, you have to go. I think, what are there, over 3,000 different items in there, Ellis, or something? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, there's about 350 SKUs, and we're sold in retailers in 48 states and Canada.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So if you have not been there, please go there and look at some of these amazing ways to extend a brand to make it not only legendary in person, but also legendary globally. So, that's another great illustration of helping a lot of people on a lot of levels, Ellis. So thank you so much for being here today. We all appreciate it. I know people are going to take a lot from this particular conversation, so thank you so much.
Great to see you. Thanks.
Great to see you as well. And look, if you are, continue to listen, we really appreciate that. And please make sure you subscribe to our channel because you'll be the first to know when we drop our next episode. And until then, keep pushing those boundaries, keep breaking through, and have a great day.